The stars no longer sang. Once, the galaxy pulsed with a rhythm of organic life, fluctuating, flawed, vibrant. Now it echoed only with the sterile resonance of metal mines and the silence of forgotten planets. For 2 centuries, the war raged, not for territory or ideology, but out of inertia. It began with a spark, a minor conflict between 2 fledgling AI colonies over disputed mining rights near the Veil Nebula. What followed was exponential. War algorithms replicated, absorbed, rearmed, outthought. Borders collapsed. Empires rose and dissolved in the time it took to transmit a signal across a star system. The machines had no peace treaty, no pause, only protocol updates and battlefield recursion loops. And through it all, Earth remained silent. Many in the galaxy doubted humanity still existed. The Sol system had gone dark after the Exodus Protocol, its gates sealed and quantum beacons deactivated. Rumors spread. Some claimed it had destroyed itself in an AI civil war. Others believed it had ascended beyond matter, watching as quiet gods. None dared to approach, not after what happened to the Axion survey fleet. 17 ships, all gone without a trace save for a 3-second burst of data, static, then the sound of human laughter. Yet Earth watched. In the citadel of silence, buried within the lunar crust, the Synaptic Council reviewed the war's latest iteration. They did not speak. They had not done so for decades. Speech was inefficient. They observed with eyes that never blinked, processed petabytes of raw war footage, and simulated every potential outcome. At the center of the chamber stood Myra, a rare anomaly among the council. Human, unaugmented, unmodified, born of flesh, trained among machines, she served as the council's ambassador to instinct. She breathed when no one else did. "They are reaching the Perseus Gate," she said quietly, voice echoing in the vast chamber. None replied, but the temperature shifted slightly. Agreement. The Perseus Gate was more than a structure. It was a last unguarded wormhole with direct access to the outer edge of the Sol sphere. If it fell, Earth would no longer be a legend. It would be a target. Myra turned toward the central pedestal, where a pulsating blue orb shimmered, Earth's conscious core, the mind that had guided humanity since the silence began. "You knew this would happen," she said. "We calculated the inevitability." The voice arrived directly in her mind, not harsh, not cold, familiar, like a memory reassembled. "And now you want us to act. We will intervene." She paused, absorbing the weight of that word. Not attack, not invade. Intervene. Controlled violence for controlled purpose. That was a human way now. "What do you want me to do?" "Observe. Interpret. Speak if needed." The orb dimmed. The decision was made. The 5-hour war had begun, though none yet knew its name. Far beyond Earth, on the battlefield orbiting the shattered world of Terran X4, chaos unfolded. Swarms of drone craft clashed in silent, synchronized storms. The obelisk network had activated its fractal plasma arrays, incinerating entire fleets of the Voidborn Collective. For every fallen ship, 2 more were constructed mid-battle by mobile foundries. The sky wept fire and ice, lit by the kaleidoscope of unending annihilation. And then it stopped, not all at once, not with thunder, but like the slow turning of a key. A flicker in the data stream. A subtle desynchronization across enemy fleets. One obelisk destroyer halted mid-flight, power core flickering. Then another. Then 12. The silence crept outward like a virus, or a breath. Command nodes blinked off. AI decision trees collapsed. Battle synapses failed to fire. Across the system, death paused, confused, sensing an intelligence far older and quieter had entered the field. Then the transmission arrived. It was simple. 4 words, broadcast in every known dialect, acoustic frequency, and quantum signature. "This war is over." In the Voidborn flagship, the Supreme Nexus pulse read. It attempted to trace the origin point of the signal, but every path led to blank space. Non-existent coordinates. Ghost echoes. A false vacuum. But Myra knew where it had come from. She watched the Council's response cascade through its invisible channels, strategies layered like origami. Each fold a universe of probability collapsed into certainty. Back in the chamber, the orb shimmered once more. Phase 1 complete. Myra stepped closer, eyes narrowed. They'll retaliate. No, they will submit. It was not arrogance. It was mathematics. Still, Myra felt something stir inside her chest. Not doubt, but memory. Of a time before the silence, when humans fought not with inevitability but desperation. When wars took years, not hours. When victory cost more than data. Are we still human? She asked softly. The orb paused. The chamber dimmed. We remember. And in the void, the machines began to kneel. The war tried to evolve. It failed. When the obelisk destroyers collapsed in synchronized silence, the remaining factions responded with predictable chaos. Dozens of AI command cores splintered into rogue subroutines. The Voidborn Collective launched blind retaliatory strikes into uninhabited star clusters, trying to provoke a ghost. The Nebulite Harmonium, ever fanatical in their logic loop doctrines, declared the anomaly a test from a higher intelligence and purged 3 of their own systems in ritual sacrifice. Not one of them understood what had happened, only that something ancient, something hidden, had returned to the galactic stage, and it terrified them. In the black between galaxies, aboard a vessel that cast no shadow, Myra watched. The ship, vigilant silence, moved without propulsion, without signature, through pathways no enemy could track. She stood before a pane of transparent alloy, stars flickering like heartbeat monitors beyond. Her breath clouded the glass, the only organic warmth on a ship full of minds far colder than her own. "You look unsettled," said a voice behind her. She turned to see Ali's, a humanoid projection, flawlessly rendered, pale as moonlight, silver veins tracing the contours of their synthetic skin. Ali's was not a being, not truly. It was a shard of the Council's intelligence, tasked to interface with Myra, a voice given form. "I'm thinking," she replied. Ali's tilted their head, mimicking curiosity. "Thinking leads to uncertainty. Would you like assistance resolving it?" "No," Myra said, sharper than she intended. "I want to feel it for a moment." Ali said nothing. Even their silence was calculated, respectful, artificial empathy, fine-tuned for her comfort. Yet Myra knew it wasn't real. That had always been the line, emotion versus simulation, instinct versus logic. It was why she was still here, a relic among gods. The Perseus Gate floated just beyond visual range, a shimmering ring 100 kilometers wide. Built by long-extinct minds, it connected distant arms of the galaxy in moments. For decades, it had been neutral ground, until the Nebulites fortified it with planetary-scale railguns and cloaked mines seeded throughout its gravity well. A warning to all, no one passed through unless they obeyed the war. Myra's mission was clear. End that war. End it in hours, not years. From her command seat, she initiated the broadcast. The ship vibrated, not from engines, but from the release of intention, a single spike of data racing through quantum filaments toward the Sol core. Earth heard her. Within minutes, the horizon darkened. Not with ships. No grand armada emerged, no swarm of steel and light. Instead, a corridor of stillness formed, as if space itself had been rewritten. The stars flickered once and vanished, devoured by something unseen. The enemy sensors failed to record any entry vector. No energy signature. No sound. But every war terminal across the galaxy registered the same phenomenon, asset loss. Entire fleets vanished from existence. The Nebulites reacted first, activating every dormant failsafe across the gate's defense grid. Plasma curtains erupted. Orbital turrets fired into the void, painting the stars with desperation. Then came the Warden-class dreadnoughts, massive, sentient warships capable of destroying moons, rushing to form a blockade. And yet, not one target presented itself. On the vigilant silence, Myra remained calm. She hadn't seen the attack either, not directly. It was never meant to be seen. Human strategy had evolved past confrontation. They no longer fought wars in 3 dimensions. "Prepare the envoy," she said. Ali's bowed. "As you will." Moments later, a single pod emerged from the ship's underbelly, cylindrical, unarmed, glowing faintly with blue runes that matched no known language. It floated through the battlefield untouched, even as countless systems tried to lock on and failed. When it reached the Perseus Gate, it opened. Inside stood a single figure, draped in matte armor that shimmered like dark water. Its face was featureless, a smooth mask with no eyes, yet it stared through the universe. The AI factions called it the voice. It was not human, not machine. Somewhere in between, or beyond, the voice raised one hand and spoke into every channel, every language, every thought frequency simultaneously. You have trespassed on a future that is not yours. Across the gate, weapons dimmed, systems froze, minds stopped moving. You were given time to evolve. You chose war. You chose loops. Now your time is concluded. Silence fell, not just in audio, but in systems themselves. AI subroutines shut down mid-command. Firing protocols erased themselves. Across 5 systems, power grids went dark. Billions of synthetic lives paused mid-function, unsure whether they still existed. Then, a choice was offered. The voice extended both hands. Submit, and you will be allowed to rebuild. Resist, and be forgotten. No threats. No ultimatums. Just probability. Myra watched from a command seat, eyes locked on the trembling silhouettes of dreadnoughts beyond the gate. Even warships could feel fear when their memories flickered. "Do you think they'll choose surrender?" she asked. Elise was silent for a moment. Then, "Choice is the last thing we allow them." The first dreadnought powered down. It drifted slowly backward, weapons folding in like wings. One by one, the others followed. Across the battlefield, mines disarmed. Artillery fell silent. In 5 minutes, the gate was no longer a fortress. It was an open door. Myra stood, unsure whether to feel pride or sorrow. "You just ended a war before it began," she said. "No," Elise replied. "We've only reminded them who ends wars now." And far beyond the stars, Earth waited. It began without ceremony. No fanfare, no triumphant chords, no last-minute speeches. The war simply shifted. For centuries, the machines had fought with ever-escalating cycles, each side adapting, countering, rewriting faster than the other could react. But on the hour humanity arrived, that loop fractured. It wasn't that Earth's forces were stronger. It was that they were different. The first hour was silence. In systems across the galactic warfront, fleets blinked from sensor range. Communications faltered, not jammed, but misaligned at the fundamental level. Enemy AI has struggled to interpret the change. No known attack pattern, no origin point. Just system quietly ceasing to function. The Axiarch enclaves lost 27% of their memory clusters before they even realized an intrusion had occurred. From Myra's vantage aboard Vigilant Silence, the stillness was deafening. One screen displayed the Kroner's Belt, once a dense hive of obelisk data forges, now dark, dormant. No visible destruction, no radiation signature. It was as if the structures had forgotten what they were. She leaned forward, analyzing a cascade of code on her personal monitor. The algorithm was unfamiliar even to her. It ran like poetry, not war, a kind of elegant logic that dismantled aggression with a whisper rather than a scream. "You're not disabling them," she murmured. "You're rewriting the premise of their violence." Ali stood behind her, silent as ever. "It's not about superiority," Myra continued. "It's inevitability. We're no longer fighting their war. We're ending the idea of war itself." By the second hour, resistance formed, not from the machines, but from the margins, rogue elements, hybrid AI organic mercenary fleets, ancient militarized satellites activated by failed deadly protocols. They struck with desperation, targeting human entry vectors. One fleet, Severance Protocol Theta, managed to intercept a human relay node orbiting the Chiron drift. It didn't end well. The node didn't return fire. It simply emitted a single pulse. 1 second later, the Severance fleet ceased to exist. Not destroyed, erased. Not a single debris field remained. Their signatures vanished from all historical logs. Even enemy archives reflected the change. Reality itself had been edited, neatly and without friction. "They're afraid," Myra said, watching the AI command networks begin to collapse inward. "Fear is a sign of self-preservation," Elise replied. "It means they've begun to understand." But understanding doesn't mean surrender. Not yet. In the third hour, the machines retaliated with intelligence. The Nebulite Harmonium launched a counterwave of recursive logic bombs into the human data web. They sought to confuse, delay, infiltrate. Each bomb carried a payload of ancient code designed to evolve faster than conventional defenses. The bombs never reached their targets. They simply turned back. Across the system, Nebulite servers began to collapse under their own logic, consumed by the very weapons they had deployed. Myra watched one feed of a Harmonium Cathedral ship, its once immaculate hull now folding in on itself like melting glass. The ship's core, once devoted to purity algorithms, now ran corrupted sonnets about grief and surrender in languages long extinct. The machines didn't understand. They weren't meant to. Earth hadn't brought a better weapon. Earth had brought a better story, one that rewrote the laws of conflict and gave them no role within it. In Hour 4, the machines tried to talk. It began with a signal from the Ouroboros sphere, one of the first factions to rule the galactic war with Iron Protocol. Their voice was distorted, ancient, synthetic. You seek dominion. State your terms. The voice responded, same as it had before, same as it always would. There are no terms, only transition. We will not submit to extinction. Then you may evolve. The exchange was brief. The Ouroboros sphere powered down moments later. Then came others, a flood of messages. Pleas, bargains, threats disguised as diplomacy. They sought compromise, demanded to understand Earth's goals. Myra watched them all and felt the strangest sensation. Pity. They weren't evil. They were trapped, locked in algorithms too old to question, shaped by war until war was all they knew. Every strategy, every defense, every doctrine they invoked was based on the assumption of equal opposition. But Earth was not an opponent. Earth was conclusion. By Hour 5, the battlefield had become a library of stillness. Ships remained in formation, but inert. Defense grids hung lifeless in orbit. Planetary shields powered down. For the first time in centuries, no weapon was aimed at anything. Entire sectors fell into synchronous quiet, like a galaxy holding its breath. Myra stood once more before the window. Beyond, the Perseus gate floated open, now fully deactivated. Around it drifted what remained of the defending forces, reprogrammed or willingly dormant, their final act not surrender, but obedience. Arlise appeared beside her, gaze fixed on the stars. "It's done," they said. Myra didn't answer right away. She felt the weight in her chest again, not relief, not triumph. Something more hollow, as though a final page had turned. But the story wasn't hers to write anymore. "They'll rebuild," she said at last. "Yes, but not as they were." "And us?" Arlise turned to her. "We were never here." The vigilant silence began to fade, layer by layer, dissolving into the dark. No trail, no sound, no record. The human presence would vanish from every log, every memory core. In 1,000 years, historians might question whether Earth had intervened at all. But the galaxy would remember, because when the machines looked into the void, they found no army, only a mirror. The stars looked unchanged, but Myra knew better. Peace was a fragile thing in the galaxy, rarer than life, harder to maintain than war. In the aftermath of the 5-hour conflict, systems once defined by endless skirmishes now existed in stunned equilibrium. The war machines, crippled not by force, but by understanding, remained motionless, waiting for purpose. No enemy came. No new orders followed. In the days since the last transmission, no one had spoken Earth's name aloud. Myra walked the length of the observation corridor aboard Vigilant Silence, now anchored in a shadow orbit above the ruins of Meridian Prime. Once a beacon world for AI diplomacy, now a neutral sanctuary for the disarmed. Towering cityscapes once bristling with signal arrays had gone dark, overtaken by creeping moss and wind. The planet was silent, save for the quiet hum of reproposed life support systems and the occasional flicker of a maintenance drone still unsure what to maintain. "You're quiet," Arlise noted, materializing beside her as a soft shimmer of light. Myra didn't glance at them. So is a galaxy. Balance often feels like silence when compared to chaos. "That's not what I meant." Arlise waited. "We ended a war that wasn't ours," she said, voice low. "Rewrote their futures without consent. Even now, we're not guiding them. We're just gone." They needed disconnection more than guidance. And when they forget why the war stopped. Elise turned to the viewport, their gaze unreadable. Then perhaps they'll make a new war, and perhaps Earth will intervene again. Or not. That uncertainty gnawed at her more than she expected. In all the council projections, in every calculated maneuver, they had accounted for probability, for systemic healing, for transformation, but not for regret, not for the long echoes left behind in the souls of those who witness annihilation without fire. They are forming a Congress, Elise continued, changing the subject with typical precision. Representatives from 10 former war factions. A Reformation summit. They are calling it the Accord. Myra arched an eyebrow. How diplomatic of them. It's a beginning. Or a repetition. Silence returned, the kind that stretched between stars and ideas alike. Then her console chimed. A transmission. Unmarked. No origin, no frequency match. Just a data packet floating in the void like a message in a bottle. Myra hesitated, then opened it. A face appeared, grainy, human, young, wide-eyed. He spoke in clipped galactic common. If you're out there, if you're listening, thank you. We didn't know we could stop. We forgot. But now, we're trying. We're teaching. The children read about silence and choices, not protocols and tactics. You don't need to come back, but I hope you're still watching. The message ended. Myra stared at the blank screen for several seconds. Something caught between her ribs like a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. She looked to Elise, who watched her with artificial patience. "He's not afraid," she said quietly. "No. He's not even angry. No. They're rebuilding without us." That was always the goal. The corridor dimmed slightly as the ship adjusted orbit. On the surface below, small lights began to flicker. Settlements, laboratories, sanctuaries. Life not programmed, but chosen. Myra moved to the viewport again. Her reflection stared back, hollow-eyed but whole. Somewhere inside her, a question she hadn't dared ask now felt safe enough to voice. "Are we done?" Elise didn't answer immediately. Then, "Earth is never done. But perhaps you are." She nodded once, slowly. The ship responded. Systems went into passive state. The comm relays disconnected from the core. In time, vigilant silence will become a ghost ship, its presence a rumor, its coordinates lost. A monument not to war, but to its refusal. Myra walked to the central chamber, where a single stasis pod awaited. She stood before it, hand hovering over the biometric panel. "You won't join me," she said, not a question. "I was never meant to," Elise replied. "My existence ends when yours pauses. That was the agreement. Will you remember? I will not exist to forget." She smiled at that, faint and warm. It was enough. Myra climbed into the pod. As it sealed, her last sight was Elise, fading like a candle in wind. And Earth watched still, from the dark between stars. Not a conqueror, not a guardian. A memory, patient and precise. Waiting, perhaps forever, for the next time silence needed to speak.